And yeah, I'll stop recording for the Q&A sections. So, Breed, if you keep an eye on the housekeeping elements, to let anyone in, or if anyone kind of has any questions or that, we can wait until after it.
Yeah, no problem.
Perfect. So let me just share my screen. Share screen. Can you see that okay?
Yeah, perfect, thanks.
Which, sorry, 1 second. Bear with me 1 second, I'm just having technical issues. And perfect. So can you see the screen there?
Yeah.
The presentation. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so as I was saying at the start, my name is Richard Curtin and I'm the Community Climate Action Officer with Kerry County Council. And tonight's presentation is going to talk about the Community Climate Action Programme, which is going to be launched hopefully next week on the 13th of December. And just getting the background to the presentation itself. So I'm going to chat about the Community Climate Action Programme, and I'm going to give a background and overview to it, some of the target groups that it's aimed at, what funding is actually available, examples of some projects, and then applications, evaluation and selection criteria of what's going to be required for groups to kind of fill out, and give it timelines, and then at the end we'll have some questions. So to give a bit of context, the Community Climate Action Programme, how it was kind of formulated or how it came into existence, we kind of have to track back to two things. The Climate Action Low Carbon and Development Act in 2021, that set out a 51% reduction by 2030 and had a plan for Ireland to be climate neutral and resilient by 2050. But at the same time, the government engaged with communities and the public in this initiative called Climate Conversations. And there was thousands of kind of surveys and submissions to these particular to the climate conversations. And two things that came out of that was there was a real desire or demand for communities and citizens wanted to take action, but they also needed support in taking action. So that's how the kind of formulation of how the Community Climate Action Programme came into existence. So there's two strands to the Community Climate Action Programme. There's strand one, which is 60 million over the next 3 years, and that's all about building low carbon communities. Now, it's allocated to on a county to county basis by population, and Kerry County Council for this first 18 months has been allocated 663,000 to give out to community groups. The strand 1A is the Shared Ireland Fund, and that is aimed at basically projects from both north and south. So you have a community group would link in with a community group up north, and that has an allocation of 3 million to the entire island of Ireland. Sorry. So to give you an idea, the different sizes in the projects. So there's three sizes of the Community Climate Action Programme. There's small scale projects, which is up to below 20,000. There's medium scale projects between 20 and 50,000, and then there's large scale projects between 51 and 100,000. And the way it's been set about is the way that, so 50% of the funding will go towards large projects, 40% of the funding will go towards medium scale projects, and only 10% will go towards small projects. So to give you an idea of who's eligible for strand one, so it must be a not-for-profit organisation. It must be located in the operational area of the local authority, so that's within the Kerry County Council's boundaries. Must have submitted a completed application form, and must be registered with the PPN or other collectives like the Wheel, Tidy Towns, or a community group with Articles Association or Constitution, which holds an AGM. So who's not eligible for the Community Climate Action Programme? It would be private individuals, commercial undertakings, including sole traders, national community and environmental organisations, and schools. And credit unions and financial institutions are also not eligible to apply. So when it comes to Strand A, it must be a not-for-profit organization. It must be located in the operational area of the LA. It must have submitted a completed application form and must be registered with the PPN or other collectives like the Wheel, Tiny Towns, or community groups with Articles of Association or Constitution, which holds an AGM. Strand 1A applications must be made by the lead organisation in this jurisdiction. So as I was saying, the Strand 1A is you partner with a community group up north, or a partner up north. And it must have at least one partner in Northern Ireland, and 50% of the funding will be spent on the partners project in Northern Ireland. Strand 1A applications must comprise of cross-border project in partnership with an organisation in Northern Ireland, just as I was saying. And given the scope for the All-Ireland projects, national, community and environmental organisations are eligible to apply under Strand A. So that's the difference between Strand 1 and Strand 1A is in Strand 1A, national community and environmental organisations are able to apply. So who's not applicable for Strand 1A? So it's private individuals, commercial undertakings, including sole traders, schools, and yeah, that's all who's not applicable. So to kind of give you an idea of what kind of projects would be eligible under the Community Climate Action Fund. So it would be projects that reduce or support the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. So an example with this would be replacing an oil boiler with a heat pump. Increasing the production of or the use of renewable energy, so installation of solar voltaics. Improving the energy efficiency, so building installation would be another example. Increasing climate resilience, so is there flood protections? Oh, sorry. And then finally, identifying nature-based projects that enhance biodiversity or seek to reduce or increase the removal of greenhouse gas emissions or support climate resilience in the state. So example of this would be planting native trees. So there's 5 teams across the for the Community Climate Action Programme: community energy, travel, food and waste, shopping and recycling, and local climate and environmental action. So the projects, it's not just the idea would be to try to strengthen your application is to try and touch as many teams as possible. So the more teams you can engage with, the kind of like the stronger that it will strengthen your application for the selection process. So the projects, what we're trying to do, or the projects we're trying to deliver, we're trying to see, as I was saying, a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, things like increasing climate resilience, and then obviously the assistance to the transition to the low carbon economy. So prospective partners must be able to demonstrate their ability to carry out the work out on the proposed work. These are in relation to fund details, and costs submitted for the sole purpose of implementing the project shall not be related to any other purpose, and duplicate funding must not have been received. So this is in relation to the fund details and that. Up to 100% of the funding may be provided for the Community Climate Action Fund. Other funding may not be leveraged for projects, or other funding may be leveraged for projects. So you can leverage your funding towards something like the LEADER project or LEADER funding. All funding must comply with state aid requirements. So I'll go into more of that after. So kind of give me an idea of the kind of criteria. So the selection criteria. So for Strand 1A, it's broken down into 6 categories. So it's relevance and impacts, innovation and scalability, value for money, achievability, partnership, and governance for governance arrangements. And then for selection 1A, there's just a slight difference. It has the northern partnership element to it. So it's selection criteria for 1A is shared island and relevant impacts, innovation and scalability, value for money, achievability, cross-border partnership, and governance arrangements. Sorry, just take a quick drink. So how projects will be valued and selected and approved. So there's the evaluation process will first be undertook by Kerry County Council. So they basically they go through the weighting of each of the criteria, and once the group has satisfied those criteria, then it's put forward for selection. Now the council will take into consideration the variety of different programs that are being, teams that are being funded, and also the geographic spread of location of projects, and also the contribution the project actually projects to the climate action plan, climate action objectives of Kerry County Council. The approval then after, so that criteria, that selection criteria will take about 6 to 8 weeks. That'll be done in-house, and then after that they go to the department for final selection and approval, and that whole process should take about 8 weeks, 8 weeks to 12 weeks by the department. So to give you an idea of some of the projects and stuff like that, so the first team I'm going to talk about is, local climate and environmental action. So with local climate and environmental action, it's very much how we interact with nature, how we interact with biodiversity. You know, what projects can we kind of deliver that improves biodiversity? So it's all things about climate resilience, mini forests, forest schools, dispersed orchards, community gardens, roof gardens, you know, pollinator projects, all these kind of things that are how you interact with nature. And yeah, so I have a couple of examples of projects here. So one would be Mary Immaculate College, the tiny forest, or Cuil Biog, which was done in conjunction with LEAF. So at LEAF, the environmental organization, came out and did some workshops with the school, and then from that they developed a tiny forest, and they planted up to 1,000 trees, 100 trees on the college campus. Another project is the Ripple project down in Ballina in County Mayo. And this, what happened in this particular project is there was a couple of workshops done with the community, and from that they developed a biodiversity project and how they were going to benefit the kind of the local estate. So some of the things that they've done, including the garden, was raised beds, you know, a mini orchard for heritage apple trees, seeding native pollinator plants. They installed a tree nursery, and the project itself won an European award for connecting with nature. So moving on to community and energy. And community energy is all about heat loss. You know, we look at Ireland's housing stock, our building stock, and it's on its whole, it's not very efficient. A lot of it's still powered by fossil fuels, or still heated by fossil fuels. So you look at from national context, it's estimated that up to 24% of our total emissions are actually come from buildings and the heating of buildings. So one example is that, so examples of projects in relation to community and energy would be LED lighting, small community and renewable energy projects, so like solar, hydro, wind, retrofitting of community buildings, and community EV charging points. So to give you an example of a project, so SOS Kilkenny, they're a not-for-profit organisation based in County Kilkenny, and what they do is they work with people with intellectual disabilities and autism, and they had a number of different buildings. They've done a retrofit project on that. So they in one of the buildings, in 4 of the buildings, they removed old kind of storage heatings and replaced them with a district heating. That was done across 4 buildings, and then in another 2 buildings, they swapped the oil burner to gas heating, which reduced the emissions. The project also included roof and cavity wall insulation and LED lighting. So all in all, it's estimated that had an overall saving of 9,000 per year for a project that costs 56,000. So the next project is the Polecat Spring Group Water Scheme. So it's actually first of its kind in Ireland. So what they've done is they installed a 50 kilowatt solar photovoltaic on the site where the group water scheme was based. The project itself has reduced their energy cost by 70%, and has also had led to reduction in carbon emissions as well. So next, we're moving on to sustainable travel. So this is all about how can we reduce our emissions, how can we reduce our reliance on cars, how can we encourage more active travel, more public transport. 20% of our emissions actually come from travel. Our travel related emissions. So things like what could be developed could be like cycle parking, improving cycleways access, safe and active routes to schools. So an example of this, I think it's a really creative example from San Francisco. It was a collaboration between San Francisco Transport Agency and Maldron Art Bar cycling parking. So what they've done is with the Maldron Art Bar, what they've done is they took one parking space and they created a 12-spot bike corral for the actual in place of that parking space. But they engaged with an artist to actually deliver the project, and he delivered this beautiful kind of mural, or how I wouldn't say the mural, but this kind of fantastic design on which would take the place of where the bike parking went, and it looks stunning, and it's kind of really eye-catching. It's just showing you like that when you engage with creatives, you can come back with some fantastic projects. So that's from San Francisco. And then in Kilkenny, in Callan in Kilkenny, the Callan Community Energy community-owned solar-powered EV. So this was this first of its kind in Ireland, and it was developed in conjunction with the Three Counties Energy Agency, and it's developed a 22 kilowatt of fast charging capability. There's another project. And moving on to food and waste. So food and waste is all about how can we reduce food waste, basically. So it's estimated that we in Ireland that up to 700 euros per year per household is being lost to food waste, and this is an annual budget of an annual national cost of 1.2 million, 1.29 million. And so with kind of food and waste element, it's all about what kind of projects would it be? Things like community gardens, community supported farming, things like community fridges, or community composting facilities. So to this one particular project from the city of Nartraya. I'm not too sure I'm pronouncing that correctly, but that was my attempt at it. But it basically, what they've done is they set up a community composting for up to 50 households, and each of the households were given instructions and a bucket and a key and access to the chambers. And this particular project was funded by Interreg. It was an Interreg funded project, and it's been a very successful initiative. But one thing that was kind of like stated from the project organizers was it was critical that not only just that training was given to each of the householders and how to use the composter in the correct position or the correct way. So a next project, it is in Waterford. So it's a community garden. So basically this was a derelict site, and volunteers in conjunction with the council and local business transformed the site. So the project itself had a number of different elements to it. So there was 14 raised beds for growing vegetables, ornamental section with biodiversity and pollinator plants. They left the ivy on the wall in some areas, which was used to feed and protect local wildlife. There was a composting system, a rainwater harvesting system put in, a community seed bank, and a wooden greenhouse. And finally, there was a beautifully sheltered area designed for workshops and summer events. So that's just showing how you can reimagine a kind of a derelict area and transform it. It's been a very successful project. So moving on to shopping and recycling, and the thing about the shopping recycling team is very much thinking about the circular economy. You think about the items we use, fast fashion, how can we reduce this? How can we reduce the use of virgin material, and how can we repurpose our items and extend their lifeline? When you just think about the globally, like the fast fashion industry has an estimate of 8 to 10% emissions. 8 to 10% of the global emissions comes from fast fashion, or comes from the fashion industry. So the longer we prolong these items, the better it is for the environment. So the different kind of initiatives that could be community repair hubs, swap shops, water filling stations, single use plastic elimination by local business, paint recycling. So these are all these are different items. So one example has been down in Cork called Relove Paint, and what they do is they basically collect paint, water-based paints from the Clonakilty and Derryconnell civil community sites. The paint is then remixed and it's filtered, and it's able to produce a wide range of colours. Paint is suitable for interior walls and ceilings, and what it's doing is this particular project is diverting a waste product and reusing it. So that's Relove Paint down in Cork. And I think this is a great name for an organization. It's a great name for an initiative. So it's So Last Season. So they're based in County Galway, and what they do is they just upcycle and embellish pre-loved clothing items. Embellishment of pre-loved clothing items. They also do workshops and teach people how to sew, mend, and upcycle. And it's all about reducing fast fashion. The organization itself is supported by the St. Vincent de Paul, and who provide materials and workspace. So when you just kind of bring it, extend it out, what you would see is like, here's an example of what would like a large scale project, how you would try and touch all the different teams. So you could be this could be up to like 80 to 100,000. So you could have a community energy team. You could be retrofitting a building. You could be LED upgrades or solar PV installation. And then touching the cycling team, this community area could also install some cycle parking. And then under the food and waste, is there an opportunity to install garden allotments, or maybe which touched food and waste, or maybe on the local climate and environmental action, maybe an opportunity to install a mini forest, or finally the shopping and recycling, maybe an opportunity to put in a host multi repair cafes or install a water filling station. So there's kind of giving an idea of a kind of a large scale project of what would it entail. So access to funding. So you have to fill out an application. It's called an expression interest form, or an EOI, or what it just clearly is just it's an application, and it's just called an expression of interest form. With the actual quotes, you'll have to get 3 quotes for the purchase of goods or for the project. So if you're getting any building work or anything like that, 3 quotes will be required. You can use using CCF, you can use this with other funding, provided it's not duplicate funding. So you can't get, funding for the same solar panels or for the same tiny forest. It has to be, you can't have duplicate funding, but you can have supportive funding, leveraged funding. So it's vouch funding. So what that means is if you have, let's just say you get 100,000, well then once you spend the 100,000, you're able to draw back the 100,000. But there is a situation, if a community group doesn't have the money, they can fill out a declaration, and then their project will be funded 25% upfront. So they get the first 25%, they spend it on the project, they produce all the receipts to us, then they're able to draw down the next 25%, and again the producer receipts, and they're able to draw the next 25%, and so on until the project is finished. But that on a case-by-case basis, and organizations have to fill out a declaration saying they don't have the funds to deliver the project. There is quarterly drawdowns. So basically, we draw down the money from the department on quarters, and once so like all invoices and kind of receipts will all have to be sent in, and it's quarterly drawdown. Sorry. And then funding is only available for the incurred cost after the project selection. So you can't have any pre-existing funding requests. So what's not eligible? So projects that are solely benefit to an individual. So there has to be community projects. Staffing and teaching is not applicable. Travel and transport costs, exceptional exceptional circumstances. Equipment unless directly associated with the project. Overheads, running costs, insurance, accommodation and subsistence, redundancy costs, penalties, interest, bank charges, or any bank charges, loan repayments, retrospective costs, as I was saying earlier, and then legal fees. And then finally, notional costs. So like things like hire room hires within the applicant's own premises and that. So just the application process itself. So as I was saying, what you're doing tonight is very much a part of it. So you attend in-person or online event and learn about the program. We want people to kind of contact me, Community Climate Action Officer, if you have any projects. I'm there to kind of speak to you, chat through projects, and be able to kind of like give you any advice that is required. So it's critical that you reach out to me. My contact details will be given at the end of the presentation, and then you have to complete and submit the expression of interest form. So just give you an idea with the expression of interest form, which is the application form. So I just take a quick drink. So kind of section 1 of it's very much about details of the group or the organization, the who, where, what, when. So section 2, there'll be a difference between the smaller and large scale projects, small, medium, large. So obviously, if you're going to go for more funding, you're going to have to give out more details. So the medium and large applications are there's more kind of detail to be required. So you kind of give it details about the project, the cost, the achievability, the necessity for grant funding, impacts, innovation and scalability, value for money, and governance. These are things that are going to come up in the expression of interest form. So there's also section 3 state aid questionnaire, which is generally this doesn't raise concern, but if you have any questions in relation to state aid or the application, I'm here to answer them. Then section 4, authorization and statutory consent, and then section 5 is just declaration. So preparing for your submissions. So I pre-preparations. What do you want to do? Why is your project needed? Know what you need to apply for. As I was saying, meet with the Community Climate Action Officer, ask questions. Give yourself time. Costs. Understand what is eligible. Be realistic and accurate budgets, and then the 3 quotes, which will be crucial. And then complete your application form. Know the problems, objectives, and selective criteria. Be clear, descriptive, proofread, and use plain English, deadlines, and supporting information. So always remember the deadlines, which I'll give out now. So to give a timeline, so as I was saying, link in with me. It's the month of December. The application forms or the expression of interest window will open on the 13th of December. It's looking like it's going to open on the 13th and will close on the 6th of March. So there's a good bit of time to get an application together. But I highly recommend linking with me. We can chat through your application. We can, I can give advice or chat through your project with you to see if it's eligible or not. So then once after the 6th of March, it'll be evaluation by Kerry County Council. And then that'll take roughly 6 to 8 weeks. And then finally, to be evaluation by the department. So that should take about 2 months. So you'll be looking at the letter of offer for successful projects will be in July time, and then it will have 18 months to complete. So next steps. So if you're interested, discuss with your community group. So discuss with your project. If you have anything, any questions in relation to it, get in contact. Organize a meeting with the Community Climate Action Officer. That's what I was saying. I can't emphasize enough. Just reach out to me. I'm there to support groups with their projects and that, and with chat and support them if you have any questions around the application form, and then start planning your project. Perfect. So that is me. I'm gonna stop recording. Bear with me 1 second. Oh yeah, it's up there. Perfect.